Rich Olsen to get a jump start on seasonal decor, and you are the paterfamilia. You're the man who knows how to get it done.
Hey, I just do what I love, and I love the fall, and I especially love Halloween. So like my birthday's in November, but I always did Halloween parties for my birthday in October. The greatest thing is I did all the decorations. My parents just had to pay for it.
Oh, nice.
So it was perfect. It was perfect.
Yeah.
Speaking of decorations, we're going to make these little boo candles, which are so fun and so easy to do. Great project to do with the kids. So all you have to do is go to wherever you want your candles, Hobby Lobby or such has them. Now I like the long, slender taper candles. The shorter they are, the harder they are to bend, just so you know that. So you get the tall ones, you unwrap them, and then you need a container that is long enough for them. That was actually hard to find. This is a drawer from my refrigerator.
I thought so.
It works out perfect just in case. So you fill it with hot water. You don't have to boil the water, just hot top water, the hottest you can get it.
Okay.
And then you just take them and you just put them in there. Now these candles float, so I take a bowl and I do it upside down and I just set them on top and that weighs them down. Literally 5 minutes later, I'm going to give you all your own.
You did this while you were here?
Yep. So now you're going to go ahead and create your own.
I get to do this.
You get to shape it. Now remember, when you bend it, you can bend them even to configurations like
really
this.
Easy.
Am I going to break it?
No, we just do it slowly. See how, look how flexible they are. So you can either do like a ghost and just swerve it any which way.
Yeah.
Now remember, you always want the tip to be straight up because if you light it, you don't want the wax to go all, it won't burn right.
Right.
So see, and you can then, if you want to go like real contort it, look how easy that is.
That is so neat.
That's cool.
And then it'll get
harden this way, and it takes probably about 10 good minutes for it to harden. Now, sometimes when you put it down for it to harden, it moves just a little bit, so you want to stay with it to reposition the top part if you need to.
And maybe over-exaggerate because it will settle.
It will settle. Now, here's the fun thing. So when they're dry and they're hardened, then you just take a Sharpie magic marker and you can make any kind of face, ghost face you want on it. And what's great about this is if you ever bought permanent candles, when you light them, they burn down, you then lose the ghost face. But when it burns down, then you just redraw the ghost face, and you can make these candles last forever.
That's so cute.
These are just the touches that kind of put you over the top. Right?
Well, they're just little simple things, but it's like the black candle opera, which I bought at Hobby Lobby, so it's not expensive. And then you mix and match your different elements. I love floral mums. You can buy these at the grocery stores, and I put them in the terracotta clay pots. Now remember, mums don't last a long time inside, only about 2-3 weeks, and they start to get spider mites real easy. So you might have to switch them out. A little jack-o'-lantern that lights up. Even my stack of books are Halloween books.
And then of course your candy corn.
Yeah, Adam has eaten about half of them.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
Well, a few of them.
You know what
and
would
then
be
if you
cute?
want to do the honors.
Okay,
I
so
think I need to get some little googly eyes to put on there.
Well, I don't know if it's dry enough, but see if you can draw it in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
so these just because you put them in water means you can still burn them.
You can still burn them, and you see that's why we want to make sure the top part is straight up
Yeah.
for the way they burn. This one eventually you won't be able to burn, but most of the time we use these candles for look and not really use them.
That's right.
So.
Well, we're using them today.
Yeah.
Okay, and again, when it comes to decorating, having odd numbers.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm remembering.
And odd is just, there's something about it. It's just like, it looks more natural. It's not, it's not about symmetry. It's about balance. And that's what we have to keep. One side, this weighs equal visually in our minds, and that's how we do it. This is the time, and there's a few things you need to know about when you're trying to find that perfect pumpkin. Number one, variety. Because what is fall? It is about harvest.
Oh, yeah.
So you can't do just one pumpkin, you can't do 2, you can't do 3. You got to do at least 5.
Okay.
All right? And don't limit
5.
yourself. So there's all different varieties. If
This
you
one
mix
has
and match.
warts.
This one's a brand new one. It's called Grizzly Bear.
Oh, cute.
Isn't that cool? I love that one.
It's kind of warty looking.
So it's very warty. It's a virus that causes this, but it's a good virus.
Okay, good.
You know, and because there's one called Knucklehead over here, which is cool
That's
too.
the one Adam
Ashley,
needs.
that's-
That's Adam's.
That's Adams.
Yeah.
I love the Knucklehead. That's right. I love that one. But once you look at your variety, then you want to look at the stems. The stems should be green. That usually means they are fresh pumpkins and they're going to last you a longer time. So you do that, and then you want to look at blemishes. Don't overlook bruises, because if there's a soft bruise, that usually means it's decaying. And sometimes it doesn't always mean it's going to, cave in and fall apart, but sometimes it does, so you want to look at that. And then just make sure the pumpkins sound hollow inside. If they sound hollow, it's like when you're doing a melon. It does make a total big difference.
Like a little bit like Adam's head.
A little. God, she is just mean, knucklehead and empty.
He immediately called me a knucklehead too.
I know.
So
He
listen,
deserves it.
I saw this girl. Is there anything we can do to like when we get them to make them last longer? Because on TikTok, this girl was like spraying it with something and washing it down, and she said it would make it last longer.
Well, some people wash it and they'll put an oil on it or a polyurethane or something like or shellac, that type of thing. I don't know necessarily if that makes it last or not, but here's the thing, its varieties last longer than certain varieties. So the harder the pumpkin, like this one is in the fairy tale family. This is called porcelain doll. Very, very thick skin. The thicker the skin.
Again, like Adam, porcelain doll.
Oh my God.
That was a compliment.
That was a compliment.
That's a
That
good
is
Gotta have
thing.
thick skin around you, Ashley. Shoot.
I was just trying to keep it going.
But the harder the pumpkin, this one has a very hard surface, the longer they're going to last for you.
You're going to say something about a fat pumpkin, and he's going to
I
come
know.
at me.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to. But of all these pumpkins here, which one do you think is the #1 seller?
This one right here.
No, that one.
Yep.
The traditional.
The traditional jack-o'-lantern is still the #1 seller and still my favorite one.
But can you carve our faces into a pumpkin? Because that happened this week.
I heard that.
Silver Dollar City
I'm
brought
gonna
it.
say probably not.
Oh, I bet you could. You're pretty creative.
Yeah,
well, I
that'd take
love
a
the
lot of
stacking
time.
pumpkins too. These are so cute.
Yep, these are Cinderella, white boar, and this one's terracotta, and they stack. And I also put green sheet moss in between the layers
Mm-hmm.
if you want to make it look a little bit fancier. Hay, you take hay, some
I thought
hay
you were
straw.
saying hay.
No,
by the way.
hay straw. You put that in between, looks really cool at a front porch.
Okay.
So,
I like
and the key to this is having an odd number, right?
Yep. Odd numbers always looks more natural.
5.
A couple years ago, I came to your house, and you said you had like, how many pumpkins? Like
that's right.
200 pumpkins
So
or
the
something.
last 2 days I've been at the Edgemont house and I did over 620 pumpkins.
Are you going to add
Personally,
more?
I touched every single one of them and placed it.
The Edgemont House, you've got to look it up online if
Yeah.
you
just
haven't
drive
been there.
by, you
Drive
can
by
see all
in
the
North Little Rock.
pumpkins.
So
Chris
beautiful. So you
stands
can
out
see
there and he
them right
waves
there.
at
You can see
everybody, don't you?
Do I what?
You
Stand
stand
out
out there and
and
wave at
I
everybody.
do stand there and wave at everybody. Well, you know, it's right there in the corner. You can't help it. I usually have a glass of wine in my hand, but other than that.
Oh, I'm going to get out and join you.
You can
if I
join
drive
me.
by.
What is the life cycle of this pumpkin? Like, how long can we make it last?
Well, you think you can get them right now. So you have September, October, all the way through Thanksgiving, and technically I use them for Christmas. I'll add some greenery and red ornaments with them, leave them the natural color, or I'll spray paint them different colors.
Really?
And still use them for Christmas as well.
So they should last
And when
a
you're-
good while.
Months.
When you're combining them with mums, what's the word on that?
Well, you know I love mums.
Yeah.
And so remember, when you get your mums, you can get them now, and they're just starting to bloom. Put them in a terracotta clay pot, mix them with this. And remember, mums only last for about, 4 or 6 weeks.
Yeah,
So you
my husband said I'm
probably
not
have-
allowed to get them anymore.
Well, you have to replace them one more time.
yeah, no, that killed them.
Oh, come on, support.
Like everything else.
Support nurseries and garden centers.
Okay, but I could get something else that maybe lasts. a
Yes,
little
we do
longer.
miracles, a whole bunch of different mixtures that we talked about before that you can substitute.
Chris H. Olsen is going to tell us about how to add some fall colors to our landscaping.
Yeah, you know, a lot of us always think about the fall mum, which of course it's still a little bit early because we're still warm. So just when you buy your mums now, you want to buy them just like that, not full bloom, because with the heat, they're going to burn out quicker. And that's okay because they're cheap enough that you can replace them maybe one more time as we get closer to October. That's what I do.
When it comes to those, are you able to like take those out of the pot and plant them, or
Sure.
or should they stay in a pot like
Well,
that?
they're a perennial, but they're cheap enough and they're grown to be thrown in the trash, to be honest with
Yeah,
you.
okay.
Because they never look quite the same as
Right.
this as when you buy them. And then I brought some really cool celosias. These are something that you can use instead of mums and pots because they'll last until we have a hard freeze. As mums will bloom for about 3 or 4 weeks and then they start to look kind of
Yeah.
So this one's called Dracula. This one's called Dragon's Breath, and they'll have the big red plumes coming up. And the more sun, the more burgundy the foliage gets.
Okay.
I use sunflowers.
So when it does freeze, sorry Chris, when it does freeze, can you take these inside or?
Well, yeah, but they're annual.
I got you.
You need
They're
to
gonna-
you need to let go sometimes.
Okay. All right. And these look like miniature sunflowers.
They are a dwarf sunflower, and they'll last a couple weeks, so they're great in pots on the front porch, on your patio table, something
Is
like
this
that.
about as tall tall as they'll get?
If they were grown a little, these are bonsai chemicals, so they're stunted a little bit, so they'd probably be about so tall.
Okay.
But they're beautiful, and they're only in a gallon size. And then I brought, of course, zinnias are great, believe it or not, in the fall because they like the cool nights. They bloom really well. So we use zinnias this time of year. Of course, we're just starting to get into our ornamental cabbages and kale and mustard, and it's a little bit early, but we really get into that when we have pansies around towards October-ish.
Gotcha.
But if you gotta have color and your petunia's burnt out, lantana is wonderful. We have it in these 12-inch pots, so you can just place them in your front porch. Always mix it with crotons. This is Petra, one of my favorite plants because it is tropical, but this one you can bring inside and use it as a house plant. But look at that intense color.
Yeah.
If you mix it with yellows, if you mix it with oranges and reds, or even sometimes just adding in some pink or purple, it really shines. Now remember, when it comes to fall, we always think of oranges, yellows, and reds, that type of color. But pinks and purples are also a fall color because asters and flowers like that are naturally bloom in autumn, so I always like to add that color in as well.
Do you see many people here in Arkansas that use corn stalks as decor?
We sell tons of corn stalks.
Do you? Okay.
We got them in this year, and they are gigantic. Of course, you can cut the bottoms and make them shorter. Yes, you just got to make sure you tie them tightly because when we have a thunderstorm, they get thrashed pretty good.
Sure.
And they're a little bit better if they're under covered porch, like on both sides of a front door if you have an overhang, because heavy rains will make them fall apart a little bit quicker.
What do you think about bales of straw?
I like bales of straw.
Okay.
You know, I like doing, what I do with bales of straw, instead of just putting one or two straight, I'll do one and then one heminging on top of it at an angle, and then do my pots and mums. That makes it look really cool. And then pumpkins around them too, and you can have yourself one awesome.
Do you sell that?
We have tons, yes.
You know, growing up, we made a lot of our own fertilizers, and I'm seeing these things, and it's taking me back to not my favorite memories. I didn't
Sorry,
enjoy all this
thanks for
stuff.
the intro.
Oh, I'm just kidding.
I hate this. But tell
People
me.
love the chemistry behind this.
Well,
It's cool.
you know, most of this is what we have at home. And a lot of times these fertilizers are just as effective as what you buy in the market and maybe a little bit safer in certain ways. So I brought certain things. This is Epsom salt, which a lot of us
Good for
use
soaking
on our
them.
roses. And what you do with Epsom salt is really easy. Now you don't want to over mix things because our tendency is to put more. All you need is 1 tablespoon of Epsom salt to 1 gallon of water. So if you just do a gallon of water or a watering can and you just shake it up, and then you just water your plants with this. And this is awesome because this has magnesium, potassium in it, sulfate, which are all vital
That's it.
nutrients for
Wow, that's
plants.
easy.
And you only want to do this once a month. So you don't want to overdo it. So just once a month. Then there's white vinegar. Believe it or not, distilled vinegar is also, it's acidifier. An acidifier means it's acid-loving plants like roses, azaleas, love this type of thing. And you just put a tablespoon to a gallon of water. That simple. Only every 3 months.
Okay.
So not that often. Eggshells. A lot of us have seen eggshells on compost piles and things like that.
Yes.
These are calcium carbonate, which is what we use in our agricultural lime that you buy, but you can make your own. All you do is either put it in a blender, you know, and make it to a fine dust, or you can beat it to death. So
Can we
this
just
is for
use our hands?
this is for
pretty
you,
fragile.
Adam, because you need some frustrations taken out.
No,
Here,
okay.
smash it.
Let me do this.
What?
Ashley, swear to goodness.
Yes.
What did I do?
There you go. Keep on
Let
going.
me have it. Look at your phone when I text you.
See, this is a great stress release, and then you're going to make it really fine, and then you're just going to sprinkle it around the plant, and it eventually will decay and water in. Coffee grinds are great. If you don't drink coffee, I'm not a big coffee drinker, but I'll stop at Starbucks and they'll save them for me. This is
Oh, really?
also acidifier.
Well, if you're Chris H. Olsen, of
Yeah.
course, Starbucks saves the
Well, you just,
coffee
they want to
grinds.
get rid of it, so they're happy. And you just sprinkle that around plants. Ashes, you know, I burn wood. And these are my ashes from home that I just forgot to dump out in the garden. But this is just like agricultural lime as well. So this, what it does, if your flower beds or your lawn is too acidic, and you can get a soil test from the Extension Service for free, you just sprinkle this on and it neutralizes it. And then don't forget about compost. You know, I took these green beans out of my refrigerator today. They're rotten. Do you know how much vegetables we throw away a year? I throw a lot away.
Yeah.
I don't always eat the whole thing. So instead of throwing them away, throw them in a compost pile. pile. Maybe get a trash can and poke holes in it so it drains and just dump it in there.
Vegetables, produce that you should not use?
Not really. Almost anything. Now, some things like orange peels and lemon peels decay slowly. Some things like banana peels, which are very high in potassium zinc, are really great. And I just take whatever in my eggshells, my coffee grinds, and I mix it all together, and it becomes a black dirt. And I'm telling you, it is like it's just gold.
That's the super soil.
It's the super soil. Super
I
soil.
feel like you need a lab coat with all of the big words and
ridiculous.
science.
You really
just
don't.
We're out here with Chris H. Olsen. I'm wondering, these plants have got to be, it's hot out here.
You know, but ornamental grasses love the heat. You just have to keep them watered. But here's the thing about grasses. They are a texture, so they are a movement. And do you know when they move with the slightest breeze, it makes your mind think it's about 4 or 5 degrees cooler outside than it actually is.
Really? So we're tricking ourselves because we see the breeze.
I mean, don't you feel cooler right now?
Yeah. Actually, a little breeze did come through just a second ago.
But that is true. So I use them all the time around patios and pools and things like that.
Is this just ground cover? Are we just filling up empty space, or what's the point of having this?
Good question. There are ground cover ornamental grasses, and ornamental grasses they're grasses, not weeds. So they are designed to be part of the landscape. And one of the most popular is the maiden grass, which has a thin blade. Right now, they're about to have their feather heads for the fall. That's why we're talking about grasses, because they're most beautiful in the fall. This one, you can't quite see it, but if you look at the old foliage, it's a zebra grass.
Right.
Now, this maiden grass will get about 5 or 6 foot tall and pretty good size, but then they have the little kitty maiden grass, which is smaller, so you could use it as a smaller type of plant.
Gotcha.
Over here, this is the #1 grass right now. This is called muley grass, which either comes in white or pink. You'll see it bloom in about a month and a half now, and it looks like a cloud.
Oh.
It's beautiful, but it's slow. If you want a straight up grass that doesn't take up too much space, this one's called heavy metal. Also switch grasses, and believe it or not, this is a fine lace bamboo, and bamboo is a grass.
Yeah, but is this going to spread like crazy like
good
traditional
question. This
bamboo?
is a clumper. So if you're going to do bamboo in your garden, we have regular bamboo at Plantopia. We have the clump-in bamboo.
Okay.
So it gets the 15-foot tall for your privacy, but it gets as a clump, doesn't spread and take over your yard. So you got to make sure you get the right type. And you know, the thing about most ornamental grasses, all of these except for these two, you have to cut them back usually in February.
Okay.
Not low, but maybe about 8 inches or so from the ground, and then they'll come back and look beautiful for you.
Pretty low maintenance, though.
Very low maintenance, full sun. If you have a lot of shade, you do not want to use a lot of ornamental grasses, except for certain things like this is Carex grass and sweet flag, which are evergreen grasses. You do not cut these back like you do Liriope. And if you just mix and match your grasses, I always plant them in odd numbers. They look best like 3s.
Yeah.
The bigger variety of grasses you can actually use as a hedge. If you want to do something besides just a hard holly hedge, they're great. But grasses do add movement and texture. They're thin blades, so they're great to mix with other broadleaf plants and makes a good look.
You own Botanica Gardens and Plantopia. How can people find out more about you?
You can go on to chrisholsen.com, which will link you to all of them.
How long have you been coming to THV?
Whenever we started the Weather Garden, which I think now has been about 23 years.
You've been here for 23 years.
I was here
Thereabouts.
with BJ Robin, and Tom.
Yeah.
That's how I started, was that morning
That's
crew.
so cool. Well, we appreciate you coming in every Thursday. It's so helpful. Go out there and get you some ornamental grass.
Yeah, we got 'em.
Make your gardens look a little bit better.